In the depths of space, where silence reigns supreme and stars burn like distant funeral pyres, the Zephyrian hegemony discovered what they believed to be humanity's greatest weakness: isolation. For 300 years, they had watched human colonies spread across the galaxy like scattered seeds, each settlement appearing vulnerable and alone. The research station on Kepler, 442c, seemed no different, a tiny speck of defiance on a frozen world, staffed by what their intelligence suggested were mere scientists and miners. But the hegemony made one critical error in their calculations. They assumed that because humans spread themselves thin across the cosmos, they had forgotten how to fight as one. They didn't understand that every human outpost, no matter how remote, carried within its people the genetic memory of a species that had clawed its way from caves to conquer the stars. They couldn't comprehend that when you back a human into a corner, you don't get surrender, you get war. What the aliens discovered on that frozen world would shatter their understanding of humanity forever. Because sometimes what looks like an isolated outpost is really a sleeping giant. And sometimes that giant has friends. Doctor Sarah Chun pressed her gloved hand against the observation window, watching the alien ships descend through Kepler, 442c's perpetual twilight like metallic vultures. The research station's proximity alarms had been screaming for the past hour, but she found herself strangely calm as death approached from the stars. Contact Protocol 7 is in effect, announced Director Marcus Webb over the intercom, his voice steady despite the tremor Sarah could detect beneath his professional tone. All personnel to designated safe zones. This is not a drill. Sarah turned from the window to find her assistant, Dr. James Park, frantically backing up their xenobiology research files. His hands shook as he transferred terabytes of data on the planet's unique crystalline life forms, discoveries that had taken them 3 years to document. They won't care about our research, James, Sarah said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. Whatever they want, it isn't our scientific papers. The young scientist looked up at her with eyes wide with fear and confusion. Then what do they want? We're just a research outpost. We have maybe 40 people here, no weapons, no strategic value. We're studying crystal formations and ice mining techniques. Sarah wished she could share his innocence, but she had lived through the expansion years when humanity first ventured beyond the solar system. She had seen the recordings from the Outer Rim colonies, the aftermath of first contacts gone wrong. Species that viewed humanity as either a threat to be eliminated or resources to be harvested. The station shuddered as something massive landed on the surface above them. Through the reinforced walls of their underground facility, they could hear the grinding of metal against rock, the whine of alien machinery powering up. Red emergency lights bathed everything in an ominous glow, making shadows dance across walls lined with charts of stellar cartography and samples of alien minerals. All personnel, this is Director Webb. Our visitors have made contact. They are requesting immediate surrender of all humans on this facility. I am implementing Protocol 7 Alpha. All department heads to the command center immediately. Sarah exchanged glances with James. Protocol 7 Alpha was not in any manual she had read during their orientation. As head of the xenobiology department, however, she was required to report to the command center. The corridors of the underground facility seemed longer than usual as she made her way through the maze of laboratories, living quarters, and storage areas carved directly into the planet's bedrock. Other personnel moved with purpose through the halls, their faces grim but determined. She noticed that several of them carried equipment she didn't recognize, devices that definitely weren't part of their scientific instrumentation. The command center buzzed with activity that seemed far too sophisticated for a simple research station. Banks of monitors displayed tactical information, communication arrays she had never seen before, and weapons system diagnostics that made no sense for a peaceful outpost. Director Webb stood at the center of it all, no longer the mild-mannered administrator she thought she knew. Dr. Chungood, we need your expertise on xenobiology for threat assessment. Webb's transformation was startling. Gone was the friendly, somewhat absent-minded director who discussed budget allocations and research schedules. In his place stood someone with military bearing and eyes that held the weight of command decisions. "Marcus, what is all this?" "This isn't research equipment." Sarah gestured at the arrays of screens showing the alien ships on the surface, their sleek predatory designs unlike anything in human databases. "Research Station is our cover, Sarah, has been for 3 years. We're actually forward operating Base Kepler, part of humanity's early warning network for the Outer Rim." Webb's admission hit her like a physical blow. The pieces began falling into place. The overqualified staff for such a small facility. The unusual amount of funding for what should have been a minor outpost. The strange shipments that arrived monthly from Earth, always classified as research supplies. The fact that their communication array could reach across multiple star systems with crystal clarity. "You've been lying to us," Sarah whispered, feeling betrayed by people she had lived and worked beside for years. "We've been protecting you," corrected Lieutenant Commander Sarah Rodriguez, stepping forward from a group of personnel Sarah had thought were engineers and geologists. "And, through you, protecting humanity. This sector is the early warning line for Earth and the core colonies. Every person here volunteered for this duty, even if they weren't told the complete truth about their role." "The aliens," James spoke up from behind Sarah, where he had quietly followed despite orders to remain in safe areas. "What do they want?" Webb gestured to the main display, which showed a detailed scan of the Zephyrian ships. Their designs were elegant and deadly, with energy signatures that made human weapons look primitive by comparison. "The Zephyrian hegemony. We've been tracking their expansion for 5 years. They systematically eliminate or enslave species they encounter. No negociations, no merci, no exceptions." The closest alien vessel was massive, easily the size of a city block, its surface covered in what appeared to be both weapons arrays and research equipment. Smaller ships surrounded it like attendants, their own weapon signatures painting ominous readings on the human sensors. "They think we're helpless," Rodriguez continued, pulling up additional tactical displays. Their initial scan would show exactly what we wanted them to see: a small research facility with minimal defenses and a handful of scientists. "They expect easy conquest." "Are we?" Sarah asked, staring at the overwhelming force arrayed against them. "Helpless, I mean." Webb smiled for the first time since the crisis began, and it was not a pleasant expression. Not even close. "Rodriguez, implement Protocol 7 Beta. It's time to show our guests what they're really dealing with." The command center transformed around them. Panels that Sarah had assumed were decorative slid away to reveal additional control stations. The ceiling retracted to show a sophisticated command and control center that belonged on a military vessel, not a research station. Personnel moved with practiced efficiency to battle stations, their scientific coveralls giving way to military uniforms they produced from hidden lockers. "The Zephyrians are used to dealing with primitive species," Rodriguez explained as she coordinated defensive preparations. "They've never encountered organized resistance from a spacefaring civilization. Their entire tactical doctrine is based on overwhelming isolated outposts and terrorizing populations into submission." On the main display, the alien ships had begun deploying ground forces. Hundreds of tall, insectoid creatures emerged from landing craft, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming in the planet's pale sunlight. They moved with military precision, setting up what appeared to be siege equipment around the facility's surface entrances. "They'll demand surrender first," Webb said, watching the deployment. "Standard hegemony procedure. They prefer psychological warfare to actual combat when possible. Makes the eventual subjugation easier." As if summoned by his words, the communication console chimed with an incoming transmission. The main screen flickered, then displayed the image of a Zephyrian commander. The alien's face was a disturbing blend of insect and reptile, with compound eyes that reflected the bridge lights of its ship and mandibles that clicked rhythmically as it spoke. "Humans of this installation," the creature said in perfectly translated English, its voice carrying the artificial neutrality of computer translation. "I am Commander VexTH of the Hegemony Assault Fleet. You will surrender immediately and present yourselves for processing. Resistance will result in the total elimination of your species on this world. You have 1 standard hour to comply." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Sarah found herself staring at the tactical displays, trying to process the surreal shift from peaceful research to interstellar warfare in the span of a few hours. "Processing," she repeated quietly. "What does that mean?" "Slavery, if we're lucky," Rodriguez answered grimly. "Experimentation, if we're not. The hegemony doesn't waste resources, but they have very different ideas about the value of sentient life." Webb studied the tactical situation for several long moments before turning to address the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, you all knew this day might come when you accepted your assignments here. The hegemony has made their intentions clear. We are not just fighting for our own lives, but for the survival of every human colony in this sector. If they break through here, they'll have a clear path to the core worlds." The weight of responsibility settled over the room like a suffocating blanket. Sarah looked around at faces she had known for years. People she had shared meals with, complained about the weather with, celebrated birthdays alongside. They were no longer just colleagues. They were the first line of defense for their entire species. "What are our chances?" Dr. Park asked quietly from where he stood near the back of the room. Webb and Rodriguez exchanged glances before the director answered. "Against their current force? If we were really just a research station, none at all. But we've been preparing for this encounter for years. We have advantages they don't know about, weapons they've never seen, and something they've never encountered before." "Which is what?" Sarah asked. "Humans who know exactly what they're fighting for," Rodriguez replied. "Commander VexTH is about to learn that humanity didn't conquer the galaxy by backing down from bullies." The countdown timer on the main display showed 53 minutes remaining until the hegemony deadline. Around the command center, personnel worked with calm efficiency, preparing systems and equipment that had been disguised as research apparatus for years. Whatever happened the next hour, Sarah realized nothing would ever be the same. Outside, the alien forces continued their deployment, unaware that they had just awakened something far more dangerous than an isolated research outpost. They were about to discover what happened when you threaten not just individual humans, but everything they had built and everyone they loved. The timer continued counting down, each second bringing them closer to a confrontation that would determine the fate of humanity in this sector of space. And in hidden bunkers around the facility, weapons systems that had never appeared on any research manifest began powering up for their first real test. The final 10 minutes of Commander VexTH's ultimatum ticked away with excruciating slowness. Sarah Chun found herself gripping the edge of a console she still couldn't believe existed, watching as the supposed research station revealed its true nature layer by layer. Hidden panels throughout the command center had opened to reveal weapon systems that looked like they belonged on a battleship rather than a scientific outpost. "Energy signatures are spiking across their entire fleet," reported Chief Petty Officer Martinez, a woman Sarah had known for 3 years as the station's head of communications. Now she understood why Martinez had always seemed too professional, too alert for someone managing research data transfers. Director Webb, now clearly revealed as a military commander despite his maintained civilian title, studied the tactical displays with the calm focus of someone who had planned for this moment countless times. "They're powering up for orbital bombardment. Standard hegemony intimidation tactic when ground demands don't work. Sir," Martinez continued, her voice carrying a note of urgency, "we're also picking up long-range sensor sweeps. They're mapping our defensive positions." Rodriguez moved between control stations with military precision, coordinating responses that required knowledge no geologist should possess. "Let them map what we want them to see. Phase 1 defensive positions are fully exposed. Keep Phase 2 and 3 systems dark until my command." Sarah watched this transformation with a mixture of awe and growing dread. The people she had worked alongside, shared meals with, and considered friends had been living double lives for years. Every conversation about mineral samples and ice core analysis had been covered for something far more significant. Dr. Chun, Webb called, drawing her attention from her troubled thoughts. We need you at the Xenobiology Analysis Station. The tactical computer is trying to predict hegemony assault patterns, but it needs someone with your expertise to interpret their behavioral patterns. The Xenobiology Station had undergone its own transformation. Where once stood equipment for analyzing alien microorganisms, now sat sophisticated computer systems displaying detailed behavioral models of Zephyrian military units. 3 years of her research, she realized with growing amazement, had been feeding into a comprehensive analysis of their potential enemy. The crystal life forms we've been studying, she said slowly, pieces clicking together in her mind. The ones that respond to electromagnetic fields and organize in complex hive patterns are structurally similar to Zephyrian neural networks, Webb confirmed. Your research has given us insights into how they think, how they organize their military units, and, most importantly, how they react to unexpected threats. The main display shifted to show the Zephyrian ground forces arranged around the facility's surface entrances. True to Sarah's research predictions, they had organized in precise geometric patterns that maximized their collective response to threats while minimizing individual exposure. It was beautiful in its efficiency and terrifying in its implications for human survival. They're not just individually intelligent, Sarah murmured, studying the formations. Their entire military structure functions like a distributed organism. Each unit shares tactical information instantaneously with the whole force, which makes conventional tactics nearly useless, Rodriguez added grimly. They adapt faster than most species can react. Every attack, every strategy gets analyzed and countered by their entire force within seconds. Then, how do we fight them? Dr. Park asked from where he had positioned himself near the communication station, apparently having decided that if the world was ending, he wanted to witness it firsthand. Webb's smile was predatory and confident, by being something they've never encountered before. Rodriguez, bring up the tactical overview. It's time to show our people what we're really dealing with. The main display expanded to show not just their local situation, but a broader view of the entire Kepler 442 system. Sarah gasped as she saw what had been hidden from them for 3 years. The research station was just one component of a massive defensive network scattered throughout the system. Hidden bases on asteroid installations, weapons platforms disguised as mining operations, and sensor arrays that have been monitoring hegemony movements for years. Welcome to Operation Prometheus, Webb announced to the room. Humanity's first integrated defense network specifically designed to counter hegemony tactics. Every research station, mining operation, and scientific outpost in this sector is actually part of a coordinated military response. The implications hit Sarah like a physical force. Thousands of people across dozens of installations, all living cover lives while preparing for this exact scenario. The scope of the deception was staggering, but so was the scope of humanity's preparation. We're not an isolated outpost at all, she breathed. We're the bait. More than that, Rodriguez corrected, pulling up additional tactical displays. We're the trigger. The hegemony's attack on this facility will activate response protocols across 17 star systems. Every human colony, every trading post, every diplomatic mission will receive instantaneous warning and tactical data from this engagement. On the display, the countdown timer reached 0. For a moment, the alien forces remained stationary, perhaps expecting some last-minute surrender from the humans. Then, Commander VexTH's image appeared again on the main screen, his compound eyes reflecting what Sarah could only interpret as satisfaction. Your time has expired, the Zephyrian commander announced. Prepare for cleansing. The communication channel closed, and immediately the tactical displays erupted with activity. The hegemony fleet began coordinated orbital bombardment, energy beams lancing down from space to strike what their sensors identified as critical facility locations. The mountain above them shook with each impact, dust raining from the ceiling as alien weapons struck the surface installations. Phase 1 positions are taking fire, Martinez reported with professional calm. All decoy systems performing as expected. Excellent, Webb replied, watching the bombardment with apparent satisfaction. They're using exactly the targeting priorities our behavioral analysis predicted. Rodriguez, prepare for Phase 2 revelation. Let's show them what they're really attacking. Sarah watched in amazement as the mountain itself seemed to come alive around them. What she had assumed were natural rock formations began moving, revealing massive weapon emplacements that rose from concealment with mechanical precision. The research station was built inside a fortress that had been cleverly disguised as a geological formation. Jesus Christ, Park whispered as the full scope of their situation became clear. How long has this been in development? Since the first hegemony encounters 8 years ago, Webb answered, his attention focused on the tactical situation. Humanity learned quickly that we couldn't match their technology directly, but we could use our advantages in deception, planning, and coordination. The newly revealed defensive systems opened fire, sending streams of coherent energy and kinetic projectiles toward the hegemony fleet. The alien ships' shields flared as they absorbed impacts, but Sarah could see from the tactical displays that damage was accumulating. Their shields are adaptive, she observed, watching the energy readings fluctuate. Each hit is less effective than the last as they adjust their defensive frequencies. Exactly what we expected, Rodriguez replied, managing the defensive fire with practiced expertise. Phase 2 is designed to force them to reveal their adaptation patterns. Martinez, transmit all defensive data to the network. Every human facility needs to see how they respond to our weapons. The battle had been raging for only minutes, but Sarah could see the larger strategy unfolding. This wasn't just about defending their facility. It was about gathering critical intelligence on hegemony military capabilities for the entire human defense network. Commander Vextiach's image appeared again, but this time his demeanor had changed dramatically. The casual confidence was gone, replaced by what Sarah interpreted as confusion and growing concern. This resistance is outside acceptable parameters, he announced, his translated voice carrying an edge of uncertainty. You will cease this futile defense immediately or face complete annihilation. Tell you what, Webb responded, opening a direct communication channel to the hegemony commander. How about you leave our system and we'll call it even? You can report to your superiors that humans aren't as helpless as your intelligence suggested. The Zephyrian commander's mandibles clicked in what Sarah assumed was either laughter or rage. You cannot comprehend the forces arrayed against you, primitive creature. This is merely a reconnaissance force. Our main battle fleet will reduce your entire species to component atoms. Looking forward to meeting them, Webb replied with genuine cheerfulness. Rodriguez, I think it's time for Phase 3. Our guests seem unimpressed with the welcome party so far. Rodriguez input a series of commands that sent authorization codes throughout the facility's hidden systems. Around them, the command center transformed yet again as additional control stations rose from concealment. But, more importantly, Sarah could feel vibrations through the mountain structure that suggested massive systems coming online. Phase 3 is the big revelation, Webb explained to the civilians in the room. Up until now, they've been fighting what appears to be a well-defended, but ultimately conventional fortification. They're about to learn that humans have been studying their technology very carefully. The main display showed new weapon systems deploying around the facility's perimeter. These didn't look like any human technology Sarah had ever seen. Instead, they appeared to be hybrids of human engineering and alien design principles, weapons that incorporated captured hegemony technology with human innovation. We've been preparing for this encounter for years, Rodriguez explained as she coordinated the new weapon systems. Every hegemony attack on human colonies has provided us with technological samples and tactical intelligence. This isn't just humanity's first dedicated defense network. It's humanity's first real counterattack. The hybrid weapons opened fire, and the effect on the hegemony fleet was immediate and dramatic. Their adaptive shields, designed to counter energy weapons they had encountered before, failed catastrophically against weapons that operated on principles they had never seen. Explosions bloomed across the hulls of their vessels as defensive systems overloaded, trying to adapt to completely unfamiliar threats. "Impossible," Commander VXTH transmitted, his voice carrying what sounded like genuine shock. "These weapon signatures are not in any database. How do you possess technology you should not have developed for centuries?" "We're fast learners," Webb replied, "and we've had excellent teachers. Every species you've enslaved or eliminated left behind technology and tactical knowledge. We've been collecting it." Sarah stared at the display in growing understanding. Humanity hadn't just been preparing to defend against the hegemony. They had been systematically studying every species the aliens had conquered, learning from their successes and failures, and incorporating the best of their technology into human systems. "The research missions," she said suddenly, "all those archaeological expeditions to former alien colonies, the xenoarchaeology departments that seemed overfunded, the recovered artifacts that always disappeared into classified storage. Every piece of alien technology, every tactical recording, every piece of cultural knowledge from conquered species," Webb confirmed. "Humanity has spent years learning from the hegemony's victims. We're not fighting them with human technology alone. We're fighting them with the combined knowledge of a dozen civilizations they thought they had erased." The tide of battle shifted dramatically as the Phase 3 weapons continued their devastating barrage. The hegemony fleet found themselves facing not just unexpected resistance, but weapons and tactics that incorporated the desperate innovations of civilizations that had fought and died before humanity ever encountered the aliens. Commander VXTH's final transmission came as his flagship began withdrawing from the engagement, its hull scarred by weapons he couldn't understand. "This encounter will be reported to the High Command. You have delayed your extinction, not prevented it." "We're counting on it," Webb replied. "Make sure to tell them that humanity is nothing like the species they've conquered before. We don't fight alone, and we don't forget our friends." As the hegemony fleet retreated, leaving behind the wreckage of 3 smaller vessels and the smoking remains of their ground forces, Sarah realized that everything had changed. Humanity wasn't just another primitive species hiding in the dark corners of space. They had become something far more dangerous, a civilization that learned from the mistakes of others and turned those lessons into weapons. The real war was just beginning. 3 days after Commander VXTH's retreat, the true scope of Operation Prometheus revealed itself across 17 star systems. Sarah Chun stood in the now fully revealed command center of what had once been disguised as Research Station Kepler 442c, watching as reports flooded in from installations she had never known existed. "Confirmation from Theta's sector," Chief Martinez announced, her fingers dancing across communication arrays that belonged in a military command ship rather than a scientific outpost. "The mining colony on Barnard's star has successfully engaged and destroyed a hegemony scouting force. 2 enemy vessels eliminated. No human casualties." Director Webb, now openly wearing the insignia of a rear admiral in the Human Colonial Defense Force, nodded with satisfaction as he reviewed the tactical updates streaming across multiple displays. "That's the 7th engagement in as many hours. The hegemony is learning that attacking human positions isn't the simple matter they expected." Sarah found herself struggling to process the magnitude of what she was witnessing. The communication array showed active human military installations throughout the local galactic arm, each one disguised as civilian operations until the moment Commander VXTH had triggered the network's activation. Mining colonies revealed themselves as heavily fortified bases, research stations deployed hidden weapon arrays, and trading posts activated as coordination centers for human fleet movements. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez approached with a datapad containing updates from the Outer Rim territories. "We're getting reports from beyond our traditional borders. The archaeological expedition on Kepler 186F has made contact with surviving members of the Veltar Confederacy. The name sent a shock through Sarah's growing understanding of the situation. The Veltar Confederacy was listed in xenoarchaeology texts as a civilization that had been extinct for nearly 50 years, one of the hegemony's earlier conquest targets. Surviving members? Webb questioned, his expression sharpening with interest. Apparently, not all of the Veltar were eliminated during the hegemony invasion. Significant populations went into hiding on remote worlds, maintaining their technology and military capabilities while waiting for an opportunity to strike back. Rodriguez pulled up a stellar map showing Veltar survivor locations. They've been monitoring our communications since the Prometheus activation. They want to coordinate resistance efforts. Sarah stepped closer to the display, studying the locations marked as Veltar survivor colonies. They formed a rough circle around hegemony-controlled space, positioned perfectly to support coordinated attacks on alien supply lines and communication networks. "How many other species are out there?" she asked, the implications staggering her. How many civilizations did the hegemony think they had eliminated completely? "More than we initially estimated," Webb replied, pulling up additional files that showed contact reports from across human space. The Kithran Republic maintains a government in exile with nearly 1 million survivors. The Nexus Collective has been operating as a resistance movement for decades. Even the Harmony Worlds, which were supposedly extinct for over a century, have been rebuilding in secret. The tactical display expanded to show not just human positions, but the locations of dozens of survivor civilizations scattered throughout the galactic arm. What had appeared to be hegemony-controlled space was actually riddled with hidden resistance movements, all waiting for someone to provide the spark for organized rebellion. "This is what the hegemony has never encountered before," Rodriguez explained, coordinating communication with the survivor groups. Previous species they conquered were isolated, fighting alone against impossible odds. But humanity's expansion pattern created a network that connected these resistance movements for the first time. Dr. Park, who had remained in the command center despite several attempts by security to relocate him to safer areas, stared at the display in amazement. "We're not just fighting for humanity. We're fighting for every species they've ever wronged. More than that," Webb corrected, highlighting incoming intelligence reports. "We're providing the coordination and resources these species need to fight effectively." Human manufacturing capability, combined with survivor knowledge of hegemony technology and tactics, creates a force multiplier they never anticipated. As if summoned by their conversation, the main communication array chimed with an incoming priority transmission. The display flickered before showing the image of a being unlike any Sarah had encountered in her xenobiology studies. The creature appeared to be a combination of crystalline structures and organic tissue, with emanations of light patterns that suggested complex intelligence. Human commanders, the being spoke in perfectly translated English, though the translation seemed to carry harmonic undertones that suggested complex emotional content. "I am Resonance of Ancient Wisdom, speaking for the Kithran Republic in exile. We have monitored your activation of defensive protocols and wish to propose military coordination against our mutual enemy." Webb stepped forward to address the alien leader directly. "Resonance of Ancient Wisdom, I am Admiral Marcus Webb of the Human Colonial Defense Force. We welcome coordination with Kithran survivors. What do you propose?" The crystalline being's light patterns shifted to what Sarah interpreted as satisfaction or approval. The hegemony maintained supply depot installations throughout this galactic sector. These facilities support their military expansion and house technological resources stolen from conquered civilizations. Coordinated strikes against these installations would severely impact their operational capability. "Intelligence sharing and joint operations," Rodriguez murmured approvingly. "They can provide target locations and tactical knowledge. We can provide the firepower and coordination infrastructure." Additional communication channels opened as other survivor species joined the conversation. The Veltar representatives appeared as tall, graceful beings with features that reminded Sarah of ancient Earth depictions of elves, while the Nexus Collective spoke through what appeared to be a group consciousness represented by multiple smaller entities acting in perfect coordination. The hegemony's strength has always been their ability to divide and conquer, explained Veltar Commander Lysithea, her translated voice carrying centuries of suppressed rage. They isolate civilizations, prevent communication between potential allies, and eliminate resistance before it can organize effectively. For the first time in their expansion history, they face a coordinated response. Admiral Webb called up a strategic overview that incorporated intelligence from all the survivor species. The hegemony-controlled territory, which had appeared vast and unassailable in previous human intelligence estimates, was revealed to be far more vulnerable than anyone had realized. Critical supply lines ran through systems where survivor populations could strike without warning. Manufacturing centers relied on resources from worlds where resistance movements had maintained hidden bases for decades. "This changes everything," Sarah breathed, studying the revised strategic situation. "They're not the unstoppable force we thought they were. They've been maintaining control through deception and intimidation just as much as military strength." "Exactly," Webb confirmed. "And now that deception is broken, every species they claim to have eliminated completely is revealed to be still active, still angry, and still capable of fighting back." The communication array erupted with activity as resistance cells throughout the galactic arm began checking in. Species Sarah had only read about in archaeological reports were revealed to be not just alive, but organized and ready for coordinated action. The scope of hidden civilizations was staggering, representing billions of beings who had survived hegemony conquest and maintained their cultures in secret for generations. "Incoming priority alert," Martinez announced, her voice carrying a note of urgency. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive hegemony fleet movement. It appears Commander Vex TH has reported the situation to his superiors." The main display shifted to show deep space sensor readings from across the human detection network. Massive alien vessels were moving through hyperspace toward human territory, their energy signatures indicating far heavier firepower than the reconnaissance force that had initially attacked their facility. Fleet composition analysis shows approximately 200 vessels, Rodriguez reported, studying the incoming data. Multiple battleship-class units, extensive support craft, and what appears to be specialized siege equipment. "They're not coming to test our defenses this time," Webb observed grimly. "This is a full-scale invasion force designed to eliminate human resistance permanently." Resonance of ancient wisdom's light patterns shifted to urgent, rapid pulses. This response pattern is consistent with hegemony doctrine when they encounter unexpected resistance. They will attempt to eliminate the coordination center before resistance can spread throughout their controlled territory. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. 14 hours until they drop out of hyperspace," Martinez calculated. "The fleet will arrive in overwhelming force." Admiral Webb studied the tactical situation for several long moments before turning to address the assembled alien representatives. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, it appears we have less time to organize our response than we hoped. I propose we implement immediate coordination protocols for mutual defense." "Agreed," Commander Lysithea responded for the Veltar survivors. "Our fleets are already moving to support positions. We have been waiting decades for this opportunity." The Kithran Republic concurs, added Resonance of Ancient Wisdom. "Our mobile cities are prepared to provide manufacturing support and technological resources." The Nexus Collective's multiple representatives spoke in unison. The collective agrees to full coordination. "Our distributed intelligence network can provide real-time tactical analysis." Sarah watched in amazement as the command center coordinated the most ambitious military alliance in galactic history. Species that had been considered extinct were revealing hidden fleets, ancient technologies, and tactical knowledge accumulated through generations of resistance activities. The hegemony had inadvertently created their worst nightmare, a coalition of survivors with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Admiral Rodriguez announced after reviewing the latest intelligence reports, "We're also receiving communications from neutral species throughout the sector. Word is spreading about the Resistance Coalition. Several previously uncontacted civilizations are requesting information about joining the alliance. The hegemony's reputation for total elimination is working against them," Webb realized. "Every species in the galaxy knows they'll eventually be targeted. We're not just offering resistance, we're offering hope." As the 14-hour countdown began, the true scope of Operation Prometheus became clear. What had started as humanity's defensive preparation had evolved into something far greater, the first genuine threat to hegemony expansion in their recorded history. Across dozens of star systems, hidden civilizations were emerging from centuries of hiding to stand together against their common enemy. "Dr. Chun," Admiral Webb called, drawing Sarah's attention from the overwhelming display of Alliance coordination. "We need your xenobiology expertise for the upcoming engagement. Understanding how different species can coordinate tactically will be crucial for our joint operations." Sarah nodded, still processing the magnitude of what was unfolding around her. 3 days ago, she had been a simple research scientist studying crystalline life forms on a frozen world. Now she was helping coordinate the most significant military alliance in galactic history. The countdown continued, each passing hour bringing them closer to a confrontation that would determine not just humanity's survival, but the fate of every species that had ever fallen under hegemony domination. The aliens were about to learn that sometimes, when you push intelligent beings too far, they don't just fight back, they unite. The hegemony invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a swarm of mechanical locusts, their massive vessels darkening the space around Kepler 442c with their overwhelming presence. From the command center buried deep within the mountain, Sarah Chan watched 200 alien warships arrange themselves in perfect formation, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in the human fleet. Fleet composition confirmed. Chief Martinez reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the force arrayed against them. 12 Dreadnought-class vessels, 47 battle cruisers, 89 destroyers, and 52 support craft. Total estimated firepower equivalent to 17 Earth Defense Force fleets. Admiral Webb studied the tactical display with the calm focus of someone who had been planning for this exact moment for years. "Signal all Alliance forces. Operation Prometheus enters its final phase. It's time to show the hegemony what happens when you unite the galaxy against them." The main display expanded to show not just the incoming hegemony fleet, but the defensive forces that had been gathering throughout the system for the past 14 hours. What Sarah saw defied every assumption about the balance of power in their sector of space. Hidden asteroid bases revealed themselves as massive weapons platforms, their surfaces bristling with hybrid technology that combined human engineering with innovations from a dozen survivor civilizations. Veltar stealth ships materialized from concealment, their elegant hulls gleaming with energy fields that made them nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Kithran mobile cities dropped their disguises as mining vessels, revealing themselves as fortress ships capable of manufacturing weapons and support craft in real time during battle. "Incoming transmission from the hegemony flagship," Martinez announced. The display flickered before showing High Commander Zekthar, a Zephyrian whose scarred carapace and battle decorations marked him as a veteran of countless conquest campaigns. His compound eyes reflected the bridge lights with cold calculation as he addressed the Allied forces. "I am High Commander Zekthar of the 3rd Conquest Fleet," he announced, his translated voice carrying the authority of absolute certainty. "You will surrender immediately and prepare for processing. Your resistance ends here." Admiral Webb stepped forward to respond, but before he could speak, Commander Lysithia's image appeared alongside his as the Veltar representative joined the communication. "High Commander," she said, her translated voice carrying centuries of suppressed rage, I am Commander Lysithia of the Veltar Resistance Fleet. You may remember my people. You claim to have eliminated us 50 years ago. The effect on the Hegemony commander was immediate and visible. His mandibles clicked in what Sarah recognized as shock and confusion. Impossible. The Veltar were completely eliminated. I personally oversaw the cleansing operations on their homeworld. You eliminated our cities and our governments, Lysithia replied coldly. But you never eliminated our spirit or our memory. We have been waiting for this moment for 5 decades. Additional alien voices joined the communication as representatives from dozens of supposedly extinct civilizations revealed themselves. Resonance of ancient wisdom spoke for the Kithran Republic. The Nexus Collective's group consciousness added their harmonic voices. Species that the hegemony had relegated to historical footnotes announced their survival and their readiness for revenge. This is not possible, High Commander Zekthar repeated, his certainty cracking as the scope of the alliance became clear. Our records show complete elimination of these species. Our intelligence is infallible. Your intelligence is based on the assumption that conquest equals extinction, Admiral Webb interjected. You never learned that intelligent species have a tendency to survive, adapt, and remember. We're about to teach you that lesson. The communication channel closed, and immediately the Hegemony fleet began deploying for what they assumed would be a standard, overwhelming assault. Their vessels moved with mechanical precision, arranging themselves in formations designed to maximize firepower against fixed defensive positions. They're deploying standard Doctrine 7 assault patterns, observed Dr. Park, who had somehow managed to gain access to tactical analysis systems during the crisis. Concentrated firepower against identified command centers, followed by systematic elimination of defensive positions. Exactly what we expected, Admiral Webb confirmed. Signal all Alliance forces. Implement Coordination Protocol Alpha. Let's show them what happens when their doctrine meets genuine cooperation. What followed was unlike any space battle in recorded galactic history. The Alliance fleet didn't fight like any single species. Instead, they fought like a living organism with dozens of specialized components working in perfect harmony. Veltar stealth ships used their cloaking technology to provide targeting data for human kinetic weapons platforms. Kithran mobile cities deployed manufacturing drones that created custom ammunition based on real-time analysis of hegemony shield frequencies. The Nexus Collective's group consciousness coordinated defensive movements with a precision that bordered on telepathic. Their adaptive shields are failing to compensate, Sarah reported from her position at the Xenobiology Analysis Station. The Alliance is using too many different technological approaches simultaneously. They can't adapt to all of them. The Hegemony fleet, designed to overwhelm individual civilizations through superior firepower and adaptive technology, found themselves facing weapons and tactics from dozens of different technological traditions. Their shields adapted to human particle beams only to be struck by Veltar phase cannons. Their targeting systems locked onto Kithran mobile cities only to lose tracking when Nexus Collective jamming confused their sensors. Impossible, High Commander Zekthar transmitted again, his voice now carrying distinct notes of panic. These coordination patterns are not achievable by primitive species. How do you maintain tactical unity across multiple technological systems? We learn from each other, Admiral Webb replied, coordinating the Alliance response from his command position. Every species you conquered taught us something about fighting you. Every survivor we contacted shared their knowledge. You created this alliance through your own actions. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome became clear within the first 30 minutes. The Hegemony fleet, despite its overwhelming numerical and technological advantages, could not adapt to coordinated resistance from species they had assumed were extinct. Their entire tactical doctrine was built on fighting isolated civilizations, not unified alliances with shared intelligence and complementary technologies. Hegemony flagship is taking critical damage, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez reported as Alliance forces concentrated fire on the High Commander's vessel. Their command structure is beginning to break down. On the display, Sarah could see hegemony vessels attempting to retreat, only to find their escape routes blocked by survivor species they had never known still existed. Zephyrian captains who had spent their entire careers crushing isolated resistance faced the nightmare scenario of coordinated, intelligent opposition from dozens of civilizations working in perfect harmony. High Commander, Admiral Webb transmitted to the burning hegemony flagship, "I'm prepared to offer terms for your surrender." The response came not from Zekthar, but from what appeared to be a junior officer. The High Commander is unable to respond. "Iam su Commander Creeks. What terms do you offer?" "Complete withdrawal from this sector," Webb replied without hesitation. "Immediate cessation of expansion activities against any Alliance member species. And full disclosure of the locations of all remaining survivor populations throughout hegemony territory." There was a long pause before the subcommander responded. "These terms are beyond my authority to accept. I must consult with the High Command." "You have 6 hours," Admiral Webb replied. "After that, we begin liberation operations on hegemony-controlled worlds. And, I should mention, we now have the support of over 40 survivor civilizations. This alliance is much larger than what you see here today." The communication ended, leaving the command center in victorious but exhausted silence. Around them, displays showed the aftermath of humanity's first major space battle. A hegemony fleet in retreat, Alliance forces coordinating rescue operations for damaged vessels, and long-range sensors detecting similar battles throughout the galactic arm as the Resistance network activated across 17 star systems. Status reports from all sectors, Martinez announced, coordinating communications from across human space. The Alliance has achieved victory in 14 separate engagements. Hegemony forces are withdrawing from human territory and requesting ceasefire negotiations. Sarah stared at the tactical displays, still struggling to process the magnitude of what she had witnessed. A research station that had been her home for 3 years had revealed itself as the coordination center for the largest military alliance in galactic history. Scientists she had worked alongside had proven to be elite military personnel preparing for interstellar warfare. And species she had studied as extinct civilizations had emerged as humanity's most powerful allies. "What happens now?" she asked Admiral Webb as he reviewed final battle reports and casualty assessments. "Now we build something new," he replied, studying communication requests from dozens of previously uncontacted species throughout the galaxy. The hegemony's reputation for total conquest kept potential allies isolated and afraid. But word of this victory is spreading faster than they can suppress it. Every species in the galaxy now knows that resistance is possible. Commander Lysithia's image appeared on the communication array, her expression showing satisfaction and hope for the first time in decades. "Admiral Webb, we are receiving contact requests from survivor populations throughout hegemony territory. The resistance networks are activating across their entire sphere of influence." The Kithran Republic reports similar developments, added resonance of ancient wisdom. "Our mobile cities are prepared to provide industrial support for liberation operations throughout the galactic arm." The Nexus Collective's harmonic voices joined the conversation. The Collective's distributed intelligence network has identified over 300 worlds where resistance movements are requesting coordination support. Admiral Webb smiled as he coordinated responses to the flood of communication requests from across the galaxy. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, I believe we've just witnessed the beginning of the end for the hegemony's empire." They based their expansion on the assumption that intelligent species would remain isolated and afraid. They never considered what might happen if someone provided the communication and coordination infrastructure to unite the galaxy survivors. Sarah looked around the command center that had been hidden beneath the surface of a seemingly insignificant research station. 3 days ago, she had been studying crystalline life forms and ice mining techniques. Now she was part of the command staff for a galactic alliance that was reshaping the balance of power throughout their arm of the galaxy. "Dr. Chun," Admiral Webb called, drawing her attention to a new set of displays showing xenobiological analysis requirements. We're going to need extensive analysis of survivor species' biological and cultural patterns. Coordinating an alliance this diverse will require understanding how different species think, communicate, and organize themselves militarily. And the research station, she asked, looking around at equipment that would never again be disguised as simple scientific instrumentation. Research Station Kepler, 442C will continue its mission, Webb replied with a genuine smile. But now its mission is researching how to build and maintain the most successful multi-species alliance in galactic history. I can't think of better qualified people for that research than the team that's been living cover identities here for the past 3 years. As Alliance forces began coordinating liberation operations throughout hegemony territory, Sarah realized that the isolation she had felt on this distant world had been an illusion. Humanity had never been alone in the galaxy. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to reveal the network of allies and friends they had been building for years. The hegemony had spent centuries convincing species that resistance was futile, that conquest was inevitable, and that survival meant submission. But they had made one critical error in their calculations. They had underestimated the power of intelligent beings working together toward a common goal. The galaxy would never be the same.